The Casper community is unlike any other that I've seen in the space. They continue to crush it. We have spaces that recently took place between Siam Kid, Jim Skibum, and Crypto Wolfie, the Casper hype man, right? That dived into, made a video speaking about Michael Sutton and his genius, right? I will let you guys listen to the full spaces, edit in some B-roll along the way. If this is something that you're interested in, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share the video with your friends and family. Let's take over the space together. From Siam Kid, for anyone that cares, these were my thoughts and contributions to that first cast spaces. These are my views on the following topics. What's the hook that got you into crypto? What's the hook that got you into Casper? What are your main Casper concerns? Thoughts on smart contracts and listings, thoughts on DAGs, hypothetical future concern about forex, what would need to happen to totally ditch Casper, thoughts on coin market cap, why tech isn't always the key factor, why every other layer 1 and layer 2 is obsolete, why it's essential to minimize your attack surface area, how can we prove if Jonathan is Satoshi or not? Still gotta make a video talking about that. Thoughts on Casper regarding the ESG narrative, why AML and CTC isn't an issue for Cas, XRP is obsolete when DAG Night is launched. Crazy claims here, guys. So Caspians, enjoy.
So what was the key hook that got you both into crypto? So for me, I've been trading for 19 odd years, and the thing that eventually got me over into crypto was just one reason. The US dollar is always expanding, as is every other fiat currency on the planet, and therefore if we are living in a world where governments and central banks will just print forever because it's their only resort when shit hits the fan, that means anything which is not hard money, so to speak, or anything of a deflationary or a non-inflationary basis would appreciate in price. And so when I learned about Bitcoin and it's 21 million max and blah blah blah, and I was like, holy shit. So fast forward 10, 20, 30 years, if US M2 continues doing what it's doing, it will push anything of a rare nature into the atmosphere, like fine art, fine wine, good property, all that sort of stuff, land, and then crypto. So that was the thing that hooked me into crypto. Then obviously the rest is history. What about you two? What was the first hook, that fish hook in your cheek, that got you into crypto? Nice. Okay, so now we've got the crypto hooks. Now I want to explore the Casper hooks. So for me, in terms of the Casper hooks, it was quite interesting because I always struggle to explain why Casper is awesome to non-crypto people, because in order for someone to really understand Casper, they first have to understand Bitcoin, and so there is a definite sort of rite of passage there of prerequisite knowledge. Now, the main thing for me that when I first discovered Casper, well, one, I was playing COD with my friend Josh Riddett, who's a big UK Bitcoin miner, and he goes, "Oh, you should check it out." And but the thing is, after DeFi 2.1, 2.0, and all that sort of stuff, I've become a bit hard-skinned about looking at new projects, because there's thousands, absolutely thousands out there. And so for me, the original hook for Casper was that it's fair mine, no pre-launch, no VCs, no pre-sale, just completely released. It's as though Satoshi had looked at what happened to Bitcoin over the last 10 years and went, God's sake, this is not what I wanted, and then tried to do it better. So in fact, let's start with you, Wolfie, in this one. What attracted you to Casper in the first place? What was the Casper hook? Amazing. So okay, let's now get into the nitty gritty of this all. Like, when I first got in, I guess the top three, I want to focus on the top three cons or the negatives that originally worried you about the project, even if it was a worry for only 5 minutes or so. For me, I struggled to name three cons But I think the first one is that I predicted that ASICs would come in and absolutely blow the hash rate, right to the moon, and therefore difficulty would come in, and then obviously, the whole ASIC FUD, so to speak. That was my main concern. Jim, what about your top three original concerns? Yeah, one of the, I guess the mind hurdles, I see people still stuck on the fact that we still don't have a major listing and that there are no smart contracts yet. So personally, I guess there are two different things. So the smart contracts thing, Cardano absolutely pumped to the moon, even though it was a DApp platform like Ethereum, or supposedly the Ethereum killer, yet it didn't have a smart contract for years, and it still did its thing. And the fact that we haven't launched with a smart contract capability yet, I think personally I see that as a bullish thing, that we need to get the tech right, we need to get DAG Night all set up, and I guess we're building a firm foundation before we then sort of go towards smart contracts. And the major listing issue personally, I'm umming and ahhing about this, but I still see that as short-term bearish, long-term bullish. So I will be concerned if I see a Coinbase or a Binance listing eventually, because that's when we see a big liquidity start coming in, and that's where big whales and humpbacks then have the ability to dump should they wish. So for example, I haven't done any sidestepping whatsoever recently, and even if I wanted to, I couldn't, just because there's no liquidity. The 2% plus or minus depth is inadequate on Mexi, or even if I open up 4 accounts, Mexi, KuCoin and whatever, it still wouldn't be big enough. So I think short term a big exchange could actually hurt price slightly, but I think medium to long term is a good thing. Wolfie, what are your thoughts on the smart contract and major listing issue? Yeah. And also regarding so Wolfie was talking about the DAGs, his spot on there, that all the other directed acyclic graphs, they are of transactions laid out in a hash graph type manner, whereas Casper, we have block DAGs. So we have whole entire blocks that are in a hash graph type, not a hash graph, a DAG way, and in each block you can have a whole bunch of different transactions. And not just that, because of how Ghost DAG works, it's not like the longest line that oh god, I find it hard to explain, but it's not the longest line which takes precedence. It's the heaviest subtree. So yeah, and it does all of that. So we have crazy scaling eventually, but without the security issues. And all the other DAGs that I've seen, they're all proof of stake based DAGs, whereas this is a proof of work one. And personally, the more research and more digging into the tech aspect of it, the only way that you can truly solve the trilemma is doing a DAG on with proof of work. So
yeah,
okay, I want to stay on this forking issue for a bit, because personally this is one of my big potential fears, which hasn't come to fruition just yet. So one of the things that has helped me in my trading career is always understanding, who is the whale, who is on the other side of the trade, how would a big banker wanker trader, head trader, manipulate the price right now. So you have to always put your mindset and way of thinking in the boots of your adversary. And so if I was an adversarial competitor that wanted to just scam people, let's just take some scammy bastard like Richard Hart or Justin Sun. In my opinion, they're like the leeches of the crypto world. So let's say I was someone like that. I had lots of resources and I wanted to ride this hype wave of block DAGs and stuff like that. How would I go about it? So I was thinking, okay, what I would do is I would, obviously I've got the money, so, assuming I'm this person, I'd go and find some capable coders that are, happy that they can maintain a forked version of Casper, And unfortunately, with social media these days, it's not the better person that gets the eyeballs. Sadly, it's he who shouts loudest and the most gets the eyeballs. So my fear is that someone dodgy will come along, they'll fork it, they'll shout loud, they'll shout often, they'll get all the eyeballs, they'll do some crappy tokenomics, pre-mine, all that sort of stuff, and then it'll pump high and then crash, and therefore sort of somewhat hurting the reputation of a block DAG, because the average retail person, all they'll see is, this big project, that was a big block DAG or Cas fork, it's all crashed, blah blah blah. And people are stupid in general. So yeah, I mean, I still meet people on a daily basis that think Bitcoin is still a scam. So yeah, that's my potential fear from a fork. And just going back to what Wolfie said, he was saying that you need someone that has bigger brains than Jonathan, or someone as at least capable. And from what I've seen so far, like, he's always moving the intellectual threshold a lot higher, and no one else is sort of upping him. So he comes along with Ghost, greedy, heaviest observable subtree, right? And then Ethereum, Cardano, Avalanche, and every other thing tries to copy him. And then he comes along with Spectre, and then, which was a masterpiece, but obviously it didn't arrange blocks in a linear order, therefore wasn't suitable for smart contracts. So then he came up with Ghost DAG. So it had all of the brilliance of Spectre, but had a linear ordering of blocks. So that's what Casper uses right now, Ghost DAG. And then, a couple of years later, he releases Phantom Ghost DAG. And even now, we're about to, hopefully, in the near future, implement DAG Night, which is it's like every 2 years, he's upping the intellectual threshold. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Wolfie. Right, sorry, I've hogged the mic too long. Let's go into the next question. So the bit of a different type of question, something which I ask myself in anything. So if there's ever a time where I get sort of 90% confident or bullish on something, a question I like to ask myself is, what needs to happen to change my mind, complete 180 in that thing? So sit with you for the moment, Jim. What needs to happen, or what data would you need to see for you to completely drop Casper and sell all of it and not touch it again? Yeah, I agree with you too. For me, a prime example of that is I got into Wonderland time pretty early, back in the whole rebasing DAO sort of bonanza. And when Sifu was outed as a convict, I was like, right, I'm out. But it wasn't just that, the treasury was an ex-convict or a current convict or whatever. For me, it was the thought and decision making from Danny Siestagali, the founder of Wonderland, because when I found out that he knew about it a good month or so beforehand, and he didn't, just boot him out straight away or tell the community, he tried to keep it quiet. And for me, that was, big red flag decision-making process. And for someone that had, $1 billion treasury, I was like, I'm out. So yeah, for me, I'm with you guys. If the team were...
Siam, that's actually how I found you, I believe,
We've been, when I say we, the collective royal we of Casper, we've been oscillating around sort of 50th biggest market cap in the world for a while now. And obviously we have the whole contentious issue of Coin Market Cap refusing to list it properly because it's Binance owned, and Binance doesn't like it because Casper has very loose, tenuous links to Coinbase. So I think it's quite petty there. But why do you guys think that we haven't had a major SEX, as in centralized exchange, list us yet? Okay, let's move on to sort of, I guess, user adoption. Tech always isn't the key factor in a dominance race. Things I've talked about is having this minimum critical mass sort of threshold. If we go back to the VHS days, there was a fight between VHS and Betamax to see which one would be, the household one. And VHS won simply because of a marketing thing. Even though it wasn't the best tech, Betamax was a better technology. Same with Blu-ray and HD players and all that sort of stuff. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, Ethereum has all of the devs, it has all of the users, it makes all of the revenue basically. It wins on every metric pretty much in terms of smart contract app platform. And so every time I see, hey, this is the new ETH killer, blah blah blah, they have this massive hurdle to how on earth is it going to catch up with it? What do you two say to that can Casper even catch up? Yeah, I agree. It makes, like, when you fully understand Casper and where it's heading, it makes every other layer 1, 2 and 3 completely obsolete. And Lightning has lots of pros, but the big con is that it is not secure. So yes, like the bar tab, you have to settle on the base layer, i.e. Bitcoin, but it's the Lightning nodes that are unsecure. So I see a near future where a big Lightning node hack will happen and a lot of money will be lost. And that's the thing, like, we started crypto with basically a steam-driven car, and all we've been doing is bodging add-ons to it with sellotape and glue, going, and we've now got rubber tires and we now got air conditioning and a CD player, etc. But at the end of the day, it's still a horse pulling a cart. And then all of a sudden we have a Tesla Model S rock up called Kaspa, completely new tech. It would absolutely, and it just makes everything obsolete. And like, governments could easily just effectively white label CAS for their CBDCs. Not that I'm a big anti-fan of CBDCs, but it's crazy.
So I'm not too. I don't really buy that argument.
Yeah. Spartan, I think you actually gave a good answer to your own question. So the way I look at it is that with anything that could be attacked, you have to try and mitigate the attack surface area of whatever you're trying to defend. And so having a doxed team and a really good team like Shai, Matt and Jonathan, that by them being doxed and out there, that is a valid attack vector at the moment. But the way I look at it, it's a bit like raising a child. You as the parent are the main surface, attack surface area. So if you were offed, then that child will be orphaned and whatnot. And so really as a parent, you've got to imprint all of the values that you want in your child up until they leave home, whether at 16 or 18. But once they're their own person and adult and they've left home, that's your main job done as a parent. So if you then died, yes, it's going to be bad, but you've massively mitigated the surface attack area, and so that as an attack vector is not so big. So yeah, it's a really good point, mate.
I just want to throw this out there. Okay, you could prove that I'm not Satoshi. You can't prove that Jonathan is not Satoshi.
True. Well, unless he wasn't in Van Noy's area in, I forgot the date, 2013 or whatever. They did reverse IP address Satoshi, and he was actively doing changes to the blockchain in the Van Noy's area at a certain time and date. So if we could find where Jonathan was at that point, then that would prove or disprove it. Yeah, So what Harry said is a valid concern, because as I said earlier, these days it's he who shouts the loudest and most gets the eyeballs, and that's why FUD circulates a lot faster than good news. That's why bullshit stuff like ESG from BlackRock is effectively controlling the world at the moment. So yeah, I think in the short term we're going to see a mass hatred, I guess, eventually over the next 5 or 10 years to all the things which, the tree hugging hippies, sorry, that's bad wording, the ESG army don't like. We're going to see, if you have a fancy car over the next 5 years, you're going to be hated because you're, killing seagulls and baby seals and stuff like that. So I think there is an incoming mini scuffle or war against proof of work stuff. But I think when you properly look into it, it's, the whole gold market, gold mining, the whole gold industry still uses more energy than Bitcoin. The banking sector, SWIFT, the dollar payment network, everything, basically the modern day financial system uses way more energy than Bitcoin mining. Now, CAS in itself is way more efficient than the Bitcoin network, but it's actually a positive. So there are ways that you can turn proof of work systems into actual carbon negative systems. So for example, if you remove methane is something like 60 times more greenhouse I think it's about 60 times more greenhouse effects than just removing carbon. And so what a lot of Bitcoin miners are doing is using methane flaring as its source. So if you do that, you're not carbon neutral, you're carbon negative. So what I see coming in the near future is that all or most miners will be using green energy, if not methane flaring, which is even better. And so that argument basically dies on its head when all Bitcoin mining or all Casper mining is completely renewable, and it won't be just a waste of usage. So what's happening with a lot of green mining projects is that they'll go out and build a massive wind farm or something, but they won't put 100% of the energy derived from that into mining. It's normally about 50%. So what happens is 50% of the energy derived from it goes into mining, so that's great. And then the other 50% is given back to that local area, the local energy grid, etc. So it's a win-win, and that's how they're getting planning permission for stuff like that, because it is legitimately a win-win. And I mean, eventually, as space tech gets better, I don't see any crypto mining happening on Earth. I mean, I'm probably talking 20, 30 years in the future, but you could legitimately have ASICs floating in space that have uninterrupted solar powering from the sun, which is a massive fusion reactor that turns up every day. So, but yeah, in the short term, I think everyone's going to be proof of work shit. But I think it's just the uneducated. Typically, the mass retail market will probably cotton on to stuff like that. That's just my 2 cents. Adam. Yeah, so that's a layer 2 issue. So when we get into the realms of a decentralized, housing market, so Zoopla or Zillow or Rightmove, you have a tokenized marketplace like that. There will be some sort of layer 2 where there's everyone will have a decentralized personal ID. So think of WorldCoin by OpenAI, but better. And not a shit version. And so you'd give an API access to your own personal Digi ID, so to speak, which would verify your funds and whatnot. But that will be built. That will be part of a layer 2 smart contract type thing. Yeah, and also your question is actually has a nice spin-off question as well, because as you know, the US is exercising choke point 2.0, where they're basically just going after the on and off ramps. So it's every day it's getting harder and harder to get your fiat into some sort of centralized exchange to then get it into the crypto world. So yeah, your AML CTC question will be valid for the on and off ramps, but yeah, as Jim said, there are new sort of projects coming online which will help on and off ramps, where you can just send your CAS and send your GBP to a wallet of some sort, or bank account, and then you get CAS in return. But the spin-off thing which I just thought of is that one of the negatives or the cons which we haven't spoken to today, which I think is a bit of a moot point, was the a 3-day block history. So part of the pruning mechanism with Casper is that in order to keep the the block size, not the block size, the block data chain low, is that it prunes the blockchain after 3 days. Everything after that it is gone. But and so there could be an issue where proof of funds or the origination of funds would be an issue, especially if you're like, let's say, a court case. It's like, well, where did this, where are the transactions of this CAS and this wallet, blah blah blah. But that's now a moot point because the dev team have now got archival nodes, so they've got the whole backlog history from day one, in order to prove that there wasn't a secret speed mine or whatever. And so they're going to maintain these archival nodes. So it's a bit of a moot point, so just in case anyone else was worrying about this 3-day block history pruning.
But doesn't the archival nodes add centralization in any capacity?
No, it's just storing data. It's not part of the DAG or the Ghost DAG. It's just there. If anyone wants to interrogate it, they can get just download a CSV. I don't think it'll be a CSV, but it's not part of the actual Ghost DAG, but it's just there if anyone needs it.
Okay, so all the answers were really good answers, by the way, and. So what I'm hearing is that it's not even an issue, really. Casper will be able to be compatible with the centralized world without becoming centralized itself, right?
Yeah, it's all about whoever builds on top of Casper. It's the issue for them. Like if I wanted to set up an exchange, AML, so anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism checks, etc., would be my issue. It's got nothing to do with Casper. Exactly. I mean, when DAG Knight's released, etc., I mean, it completely nullifies the existence of Ripple, for example, and any interbank transfer protocols. So, for example, the reason Ripple's doing well and it's not doing well, but the reason why the concept around it is important, because if you take a billionaire or a massive company or a bank and you're going to send $1 billion or more cross borders, it's T+3 plus maybe 25 basis points. So there is a currency exchange fee of, let's say, 25 to 50 basis points, which is millions, by the way, if you're sending billions, and it's T+3. They have to wait 3 days for finality. So this is why Bitcoin became very big in, I guess, the billionaire worlds, because you get block finality or transaction finality in 15 minutes. Whereas with Casper, you could basically send unlimited amounts of money instantly with 10-second finality. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And a prime example of this was that Russian dude that got killed by Putin. He's the 5th biggest Bitcoin holder on the planet. And there's a reason for that. So